So today we are looking at basically two areas of that slight threat, and that's all associated with that tropical depression, the Cristobal, that was formerly a tropical storm. So big kind of note to take about this today, that western portion it is smaller. That's because it's going to be that leading edge stuff coming off and going towards the southwest. And then that vertical, that bigger bubble, is where that kind of whipping action is going to be occurring from the tropical depression. So it's going to be winds coming in from different directions, which is going to allow some of those storms to potentially spin. So it does give us a low tornado threat. But we also could see some bigger thunderstorms form out of this as the storm continues to move north. Temperature-wise today, we are seeing that you can still see that tropical storm pushing to the north. You can actually see it through the temperatures there. Some of that rain-cooled air is in there. But looking across the rest of the country, we do see that cold front that's cutting down through the plains. And right behind it, it's going to be very cold. But as you see just to the west of it, there's actually kind of a warm front, kind of a dry line, we can almost say, setting up. And all of this is because of this tropical storm. This was a neat ridge that had formed, and it was all the way across the country. Well, the tropical storm has actually pulled a lot of this in, and now as it is a depression, it's actually pushing that ridge up into Canada and pulling some of that colder air from the Rockies down into portions of the plains. So good news, this will not stay around. It will be here for tomorrow, but as long as this tropical depression is in the country, there's gonna be a cold front. As soon as it leaves the country, though, it looks like we're gonna see a complete refill of the heat that we are seeing. So we're not going to stay cold. It's only going to be for 1 or 2 days. And as this moves into Canada and then off into the Atlantic at one point, we are going to see all of those really warm temperatures return. So looking at the morning hours, we see that the system is located over Missouri, and then we do see a bigger system that has formed that is traveling towards the south, and kind of that cold pocket of air in there, so it's going to be raining. So that's why we're seeing such cold temperatures compared to the rest of the country behind that cold front, is because of the fact that it's actually being rain cold. So it might not be physically that cold, but the rain is making it a little bit cooler. So then in the afternoon hours, what we are looking at is this traveling further north to be centered over parts of Iowa and Illinois. And this is where we see that severe threat start to form over parts of Nebraska and Kansas, as few individual cells are going to go ahead and take off and gain a lot of energy right along that cold front, and that's going to allow them to build and strengthen as we go throughout the day. So we're going to see some high impact stuff, as in a potential for some big hail. We could see some damaging winds, and then once again there is that low tornado threat. But we are seeing this tropical depression at this point diminishing. It is not as big and pronounced as a system, and its rotation point is at the very southern tip of it rather than being up in the middle. So we are seeing kind of all of that happening. We are seeing some weather pop up in the south due to it being dragged north through that moisture. And we'll see a severe threat associated with this also tomorrow across parts of the Ohio Valley and into the northeast, and that's because we're going to see the storm start to shift towards the northeast a little bit more and influencing some of those southern bands to allow some bigger development of squall lines and more severe thunderstorms. And then finally, looking into the overnight hours, expecting this to have that shift to the east, we do see a little bit more pronunciation of where that center is, but we do see a stretch occur with this in the parts of Michigan. This is thanks to the Great Lakes. It's kind of stretching that system. We do see some supercells that are popping up in southern Texas, and then they're traveling into parts of Arkansas. So you can expect potentially some severe thunderstorms in there. And then looking back to the plains, potential for just some bigger rain amounts and not too much severe as we get into the nighttime hours. What we do see at this point, it's the equivalent of a low that is moving to the north, and so it's not holding that super big severe threat for rotation or anything anymore. The kind of key components to this are going to be rain, and then it's going to be gusty winds earlier in the day, and then later in the day it's just going to be a lot of rain. So thank you so much for listening to this forecast here that we have. We do it here every morning for every single day, so we hope to see you in tomorrow's, and then we always remind you to be weather ready.